This is Middle-Aged Nerd Seeks Genre. I'm Cody. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, in this video I've got speculative fiction for you. All by black authors, all of them books I liked very much, and we are just going to dive right in. First up is Ring Shout by Djèlí Clark. This book is really awesome. I loved this book. Here's the story in a nutshell. So it's 1922 and the KKK is monstrous. And I mean literally. They're literally monsters. They're demons. And thankfully, our protagonist, Maurice Boudreau, has a sword to take care of that. So Maurice and her cohorts are all fighting against what they call the Ku Kluxes. They're people who look like members of the Klan, but Maurice and some of her cohorts have special sight, and they can see that they're like literally demons. They're monsters. They're these big, hideous, sort of white creature things. They're attempting to fight them back because they see that their numbers are growing. But there's also something new on the horizon, and this new thing threatens to do much more damage than the Ku Kluxes ever did. This new thing on the horizon threatens to undo all of humanity. And Maurice and her sword are pretty much the only thing standing in between Earth and destruction. So on the one hand, you get this really great supernatural monster story that's filled with adventure. I mean, the opening sequence of Ring Shout is one hell of a fight scene with Maurice and her cohorts and a bunch of the Ku Kluxes. It never stops. The hits keep coming. It's a really fun book, packed with action, packed with body horror, packed with some real great spooky stuff, supernatural things. Like everything you love in speculative fiction, it's in Ring Shout. So you're not going to leave the book disappointed there. But Ring Shout is interested in something a lot deeper. It's interested in telling the story of America's history of racism, told through the tropes of speculative fiction and monster stories. And to look at how devastating and how deeply rooted racism and American hate can be. Clark is talking about how racism transforms people into literal monsters. And not just the us, it also transforms the victims of racism too. Everyone is drawn into this battle that is filled with pain and hate and challenge. We're all transformed by it. And he uses these incredible monster story tropes to help tell that story. So that's the dark half of it, but there's something else there too. He's also created this incredible story about black resilience and black joy. The characters in this book form a wonderful community. The Maurice and her cohorts and her friends, the people that band together, they're a tightly knit community that respect their history. Her sword, in fact, is forged from the power and the magic of their shared experience. For me, the real power of Ring Shout is Clark's ability to turns their pain into magic and empowers them in ways that other stories told by other kinds of storytellers never quite do. It's under 200 pages, but there's so much in this book. It feels like you've tackled like a 10-volume series. I can't recommend Ring Shout more. I loved this book, and I think if you are interested at all in sort of the future of speculative fiction, particularly from black writers, this is a book you need to get in your hands immediately. Ring Shout by Djèlí Clark. Another piece of speculative fiction which I enjoyed very much is Lakewood by Megan Giddings. Now, this is her debut novel, and it is a pretty fun ride. So Lakewood is about Lena Johnson, who is a young black woman, and her family is going through a bit of a crisis. Her grandmother's just passed away, and her mother is really, really sick and needs sort of intense medical attention, but the family really can't afford it. So Lena is being pressured to provide for her family and keep her family afloat. So she has to make a really tough choice. She's got to choose to take this job that is sort of this part of the secret research project in Lakewood, Michigan, this small, tiny town out in the middle of nowhere. That's a really tough choice. On the one hand, it's positive because there's a lot of money in it, and the company that's running this project provides really great medical care for her mom. So that's great. But on the other, it also really disconnects her from her family. She can't really talk to them on the regular. They tell her what to say about her experience in Lakewood with this new job, this kind of a front job. And it separates her from her friends and isolates her tremendously. And she's also part of these increasingly bizarre medical experiments. Some of them are creating these wild hallucinations or these weird experiences, and they start to grow into these things that could be like potentially deadly things that are happening to them through this research project. Lakewood is the story of Lena unraveling the truth of Lakewood and this research project. And it reads a lot like a Black Mirror episode. So if you really dig sort of sci-fi tinged with horror, this is definitely the book for you. But Giddings has something more on her mind as well. She's really sort of writing a riff on America's relationship and history with medical experimentation on black bodies. What Lena recognizes when she sort of gets into Lakewood is that all of the participants of the project are people of color, and the doctors are all white. So there's certainly something fishy going on. And race and racism is always sort of just under the surface of the conversations. I had a really good time reading Lakewood. I liked it a lot, and I'm really looking forward to more things from Megan Giddings. This was her debut novel, so I'm ready to go wherever she's going to take us next. I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting ride. Another book that I really enjoyed in the world of speculative fiction recently is N.K. Jemisin's The City We Became. Now, this is a wild, fantastical ride. In the world of The City We Became, cities can, at some point in their lifetimes, become alive. They literally become living things. And there are cities all around the world that have done it. And in this story, in this book, New York finally becomes alive. Now, the way a city becomes alive, there's sort of like a person who embodies the city, and they become sort of the receptacle of this livingness that a city can do. And at the beginning of this book, the person who is endowed with New York as a whole, something happens to them, and they're placed in a bit of peril. And so other cities, particularly the city of São Paulo, have to sort of protect New York, and they swoop in to sort of make sure that New York is going to be okay in this incredibly sensitive time of its birth. Now, that person who embodies New York isn't the only person who embodies the city. Each of the 5 boroughs has a person that embodies the borough. And The City We Became is a book that follows each of these 5 people as they realize they are now the physical embodiment of their entire borough. What that experience is like, how they come to it, and how they ultimately find each other. Because the 5 boroughs have to come together in order to save New York, because, as a good speculative fiction story would give us, there's something else out there that wants to harm New York and wants to prevent New York from fully becoming alive. There's a force out there that's malevolent, that is eager to make sure that this process of coming alive for this city doesn't happen. Now, this is the first in a series of books, and I had so much fun on this ride. N.K. Jemisin is one of our best writers of speculative fiction. She's an incredible, incredible storyteller, and this book is certainly no exception. The way she creates each of our central characters and fleshes out their lives and brings them together, really compelling. It's really entertaining, and it's a significantly sized book, but I tore through it pretty quickly, and that's kind of rare for me. I don't read too quickly, but I got through this one I couldn't put it down. Really highly recommend The City We Became, N.K. Jemisin. The last book on my list today for black speculative fiction is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. This is a novella that was released by Tor Publishing, and it's great. So, in a nutshell, we have a sibling pair. Ella is a young black girl who has a power that she calls the Thing. She's able to see people's futures, see the things that haven't happened to them yet. and she's endowed with this incredible power. Her brother doesn't have that, but her brother is sort of trying to protect her. And the novella explores the experience of these two siblings as they try to navigate an increasingly dangerous world for them. I don't want to say much more than that, because the part of the joy of Riot Baby is discovering what Onyebuchi is up to in this story and how he unfolds the story for you. All I can say is that Riot Baby is a gorgeous book. It has a lot of very serious things on its mind, but it has these wonderful flights of fancy and takes us into really amazing places. Some of them are really dark, but there is something very powerful and hopeful about this book. If you've never encountered Onyebuchi's work, he's most known for his YA work, particularly Beast Made of Night. But if you've never encountered his work, this is a wonderful place to start. It's a pretty slim volume, but it's packed with some extraordinary prose and some extraordinary storytelling. Highly recommend checking out Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. So as always, really happy to have you here. If you like what's happening, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you plan to. I would love to talk to more of you about what you're reading and whether or not you're checking out any of this stuff. And you know, click the bell, do all the stuff that one does on the YouTubes, or if you dig it. I will see you in the next video.